Madison Murphy, Wisconsin Weirdo. Written by Jessica Gleason. Narrated by P.J. Farhall. Chapter 1. Well, it was official. Madison Murphy was no longer privy to the lackadaisical lifestyle of a Wisconsin native. Not with her current affliction, anyway. It affected her appetite, temper, appearance, and general outlook on life. Madison Murphy was now a goddamn overweight weirdo with the ability to change into a stupid Siberian tiger at a moment's notice, as if that was a useful skill. Maybe a fire-breathing dragon or a cute little pixie fairy. But a Siberian tiger. Not so much, especially in Wisconsin. Like she didn't feel out of place before her stupid blind date. This was all she needed. The ability to turn into a gigantic kitty cat every time she got upset. How was leaving the house even an option? Maybe for a mild-mannered individual, but for Madison it was a no-go. She didn't exactly need people turning their heads and staring because she was hacking up a hairball every 15 minutes. She got enough stares for being slightly overweight and was already self-conscious before the whole hairball debacle. Perhaps she could just pack things up and go to Vegas in search of Siegfried and Roy. They could probably put a fat Siberian tiger to work. It wasn't as if she was a particularly attractive kitty. She shook her head and fought for a moment of sanity. There obviously wasn't one coming. The only things she owned were newly shredded curtains and an empty fish tank. Obviously, Kitty had a very playful side. The fish probably hadn't appreciated that. Everything was fucked up since last Friday night. It was amazing that the nice men in white coats hadn't hauled her off to the comforts of a round rubber room. Nothing made sense any more. If she wasn't a crackpot, then something was very wrong with the world. Her symptoms had grown more intense since the arrival of her estranged one-night stand. She stopped and glared at the man sitting across the room in her favorite chair. This was all his fault. She'd suspected it all along, but his appearance confirmed it. His light, quizzical look only made her want to slap him harder. That is, until she gagged on another hairball. A new side effect of her anger. Stomach ulcers were much better than hairballs, but she didn't really have a choice in that matter any more. He had been a pity fuck. Whether he was the one that had taken pity on her, or she was the one that had taken pity on him, was inconsequential. She should have listened to her mother. Don't be a whore, and you'd better be able to deal with the consequences of your actions. Those words swirled around in her head. Damn her mother for actually giving her some good advice. Madison, are you even listening to me? He shouldn't even be here. The stout, balding man was quite possibly the most annoying thing she'd ever met. She stopped pacing for a moment and looked at him, wondering if he'd said something. You know, I don't really feel like seeing you right now. I'm quite busy, so if you could possibly show yourself out and jump off a cliff, that would be great. She gestured toward the front door. See? Door. Over there. 1 foot in front of the other. Madison, I think I need to talk to you about some things, he said, clearly unsure of himself and looking at her with wide puppy dog eyes. Do you think you could just listen to me for a couple of minutes? I promise I'll leave you alone and never come back as long as you let me explain a few things to you. Really, it's crucial. She stifled a cough that would probably produce another hairball. Well, she supposed she could listen. Perhaps he had some sort of solution or cure for her current predicament. Still, she hadn't wanted to talk to him about that night. Everything in her life had changed since then, and not in a good way. She didn't even know how to piece it all together. Sarah had set her up on a blind date, much to Madison's chagrin. But Sarah was always sticking her nose in where it didn't belong. Non-cooperation was not an option, lest she be made to submit to something much more mortifying than a blind date. Sarah strolled along with Madison to the cafe, where she was to meet up with Harold. She didn't trust Madison to actually go out on her own. Good instincts on Sarah's part. Harold. Really. This one is going to be a bigger winner than the last one. Harold is a stupid name. Why do I let her drag me into these stupid situations? Harold. Gross. Madison had done her best to feign interest in Harold the tax attorney. She probably wasn't very convincing, but who would be convincing if they were forced into a date with Harold the tax attorney? The injustice of it all. By the time they arrived at the cafe, Madison was so agitated her jaw clenched. Sarah shoved her inside and pointed to the unattractive bald man sitting in the corner. Great. Just great. He's worse than I anticipated. Way to go.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?